Okay, so starting with the first module, that is Python theory, then proceeding to the hands-on, where we discuss about different Python libraries like NetMiko, Paramiko, PyNTC, Paramiko, Scapy, subprocess, Nornia. Then we move into the Ansible, then we move into the REST API, then we cover PyATS, and then finally to the Cisco Devnet associate level. And throughout the completion, I would be giving you some real-time project where you can spend time to write your own script. This would be more focused towards writing something of your own. So this is what is the overall curriculum. It's a 2 to 3 month of batch, which is happening every weekdays. This is a weekdays batch. So as I told you, the timing as well in the last class, it's 8:30 p.m. Here in India. So let me write it over here. The batch hours. It's Monday to Thursday, 8:30 p.m. IST, which is in India. It's a daily 1 hour of class. So this is about the batch hours, and already shared you the curriculum and the different modules that we are covering in this uh, batch of 2 to 3 hours. And in the last class, I gave you some quick demonstration of certain Python script, right? So what we discussed in the last class. In the last class, I showed you some script which were straightforward to run a regex pattern on an show version command and fetch your variable. Then in the next script, we just saw a very high level. We never discussed on a line by line basis, but we saw the high level in the last sample class. So this second script was more about, let's say we have thousands of devices, but unaware of what vendor they are, and we give this 1,000 device, and the script will run some sort of SSH auto detect, find it out whether it's a Cisco or F5 or Panovas or FortiGate, and then accordingly will go and get processed by a appropriate block. So if it is a Cisco, might be we are triggering the command called show IP brief, or let's say we want to copy a file called 3850.bin file. If it happens to be a Palo Alto, might be we have a different set of command. We might copy another uh, the operating system on the hard disk of PAN-OS. Or if I have a F5, might be I'm configuring some nodes or pools or something, right? So this was a script where you have multiple vendors in a single list with multiple devices. Then we talked about uh, Python being a backend programming tool. So, what is backend programming tool? It's something which is written manually. They don't have a front end. What do you mean by front end? Front end in the sense, if let's say you get the web based graphical interface for this, and without going through any modification or without going through any changes, you can, from the dashboard itself, you can make some changes. uh, I once showed you with some thinklet library, and the second one that I showed you was with the Flask. So I think I can show you once again just to understand what does it mean. See, this is called front end. So we discussed that in a front end, we can just trigger our command and then we execute. In the back end, the Python script will make a SSH call to the device and fetch the needful thing, right? So this is all part of the 2 to 3 month of duration. I only showed the high level. Okay. I have not written anything or not discussed line by line steps, that what does this stand for, what is this stand for. Just from high level, just to show you what is automation capable of, we just discussed from the high level. Okay. And I told you that we are starting from a basic level. We are not straightforward starting with writing of a script. We will start with basics where we first discuss about Python theory. Once we are okay with Python theory, then we will proceed with the uh, hands-on, right? So if you see the section here, the first modules are something related to the concept and the theory. So we will install the needful tools, we will install the needful libraries, we will understand how the communication between this programming tools with the end device happens. Then we will talk about some Python theory, like what is variable, what is comment, what is types, right? So that is how we proceed by having a basic exercise to an advanced exercise. And then after a couple of days, we will start with the Python libraries. And then by that time we expect that you are already well versed with the theory, so no going back towards the theory concept at that point. Okay, so this was the lab. This is the lab. I already told you the lab concept. So we will make use of an emulator. So you can make use of either GNS3 or EVNG. We also have a ready-made file. So we will help you to deploy it in your laptop. Okay. And let's say this is the laptop that you have. You will be installing all the needful things like PyCharm, Python, and the different sort of libraries. And then this must initiate the SSH connection or HTTP connection over on this, depending upon what are you using. If you're making use of a simple router and a switch, right? So these devices can work over on SSH. In case if you're hosting like Palo Alto, or if you're hosting SD-WAN, or if you're hosting FGT, so these are all graphical based interfaces. So HTTP will work. Okay. So in the lab, we have to make this provision. So that's why I showed you a overview that this is the emulator, which is EVNG based. We have all Cisco vendors and ASA firewall. We have Palo Alto. We have Arista. We have Junos. We can add any number of vendors to this existing topology as well. And to carry out the automation, we have a working PyCharm. So if in case I just want to see if I'm reachable to this device. So let's say show IP int brief. So it's at 24.3. Do I have reachability from my automation to 16, 24, 13? See, so you can see that from your automation tool towards that end device, you have a ping reachability, right? So you are able to make a ping communication. So if you have the ping communication, definitely then you can initiate whatsoever that been enabled with. If you have enabled SSH or if you have enabled HTTP, you should be able to talk. So first thing, always make sure you have basic connectivity. If you do not have basic connectivity, there is no point of talking about automation. In the second point, you can consider uh, from your end whether you would like to have PyCharm or you would like to have Microsoft Visual Studio. They all does the same thing. Okay, it's an individual preference. Then you need a Python programming language that needs to be installed. These are all open source. So you get a free open source. You get the community version, which is again a free of cost. And then what else you need? You need to decide which library would you like to go with. So if you go think about SSH, let's say the connectivity was happening via SSH. You have again a lot of options available. You can go with Paramiko, you can go with NetMiko, or you can go with Nornia. If the connection was over on HTTP protocol, then you can go with the request library. You can go with the HTTP library. So there are n number of library. Again, these are free and open source. You don't have to pay for using the services. It's only your skills that is required as of now. Okay, rest most of the things for automation is free of cost, and with the help of virtualization, even the emulators or finding image is also free of cost for you to practice them. Okay, so GNS is free, EVNG community version is free. You don't have to go or rely on any paid version. So we will help you with the deployment process. Usually, what happens is once the class begins from tomorrow onwards, the sessions are logged. So we will roll out a welcome kit email, which will consist of all the needful links that you need for home lab setup. And one of my backend team over on a Ultra Weaver or AnyDesk will connect onto your laptop and will help you to install the needful lab files. The only needful thing is that you should have 16 GB of RAM. If you don't have this, then prefer opting for remote lab. So remote lab in the sense when the when the lab is hosted at our end and we are giving you the access to them. So this access is included in your package for 6 months. So for 6 months, it's included for remote lab. In case if you don't have this, if you have it, then from the day one itself, you can run it on home lab and you can practice in the home lab itself. Okay. So clear till this point, the high level of what is needed to get started. Any question till here? Okay. So as I was telling about the basic overview, so now let's talk a bit on Python theory, and hopefully then you should be able to understand uh, understand the scripts or whatever we discuss henceforth. Okay. So have you heard about the word variable? What do you understand by variable?
Defining the value inside the variable when you are using the Python,
Sorry, I didn't get you.
which means defining the values by using the variable only.
Uh, Come again. Your audio was a bit low.
No, no, no. The variable means which is used to define the value.
Uh, Define the value. You're telling it from this point, but what does it does?
It will store the values in that memory location.
Yeah, it is to store the values. Okay, and transmit it between source to destination. Okay, so anything you can store any data to this variable. It can be numbers, it can be string, it can be list, right? Say if I write it this way, so what does this mean? What is this mean?
Uh, See, when we are not giving the single quotation, it is taking a value, but now it is taking, say, that exact name only. Now the username is admin only.
No, what does this mean? The left hand side.
Variable.
It is a variable name. What is this?
It's a value, which means assigning to that particular variable.
Yeah, you can say value or a data that we are assigning.
Yes.
And how do we assign a value to a variable? Using equals to operator. Okay. So the data can be of any different type as well. Like you can have a number stored. You can have a multiple list of data. You can have a single piece of data using a string. You can also have a set of data. You can have tuples of data. You can have a dictionary type of data. So that we will learn during different data types. Okay. So for now, variables are nothing but it's a empty container to store the value and used to transmit between source to destination. So how do we write it on a ID or a Python IDE tools? So let's say, see if I have Windows PC. See, this is installed one. If I have to create a new blank file, so I'll click on new Python file and I'll say that new blank file.py. So how do I write a variable? I can write it this way, something like this. Okay. So this is a variable name. This is the data assigned to it using a equals to operator. How do I read? Let's say if something is in your script, how do you read what is the data stored inside that, right? So I can make use of a print statement. So if I run this, you will see that your computer will read it loud. So it is giving you the information automation. If you change this to something else, let's say CCI, and then run this, so you will receive the new data that is stored. So these variables are a temp memory. You can replace them with the new set of data always. You can also keep numbers. Let's say you have some numbers stored. You just run this. Now a number is being stored. You can have a list, let's say multiple data, let's say CCI, you want CCNA, you want, let's say CCNP, and then you run this. See, okay. Why do we need variables, let's say in a real-time script? So if I show you a script here with me, so you can see that there are multiple times where we would be using variables. So do you see the line number 3? It is where I assigned two different device IP to one variable, and this variable was later called for certain operation. You can see then there was some variable defined. You can see there was some variable defined. You can also see over here in each block there are some certain operations that you're conducting and that's being stored in that variable. So these variables are can be printable. We can see we can print here. If on the 23 I have a print command to see what is being stored there. Similar way on 34, I'm fetching out some data and I'm printing it out. So print is nothing but which is be visible on the user PC. So otherwise, how would you know what's getting processed in the backend? You need some output, right? See, when you do show IP int brief, what you expect from the device, you expect the output for that particular thing, right? You expect the output for that output, show IP int brief. If you don't get that output, how would you confirm what that IP of the device is? What are the other interfaces that is configured? So for any command that you trigger, you expect a output which you can view it or read it. So similar way, the prints are nothing but they are to reveal you that output. If you don't keep print, like let's say if you take out that print, even then the operation will happen, but you will not be able to see or read it on your output terminal. So print is like an output message for you. So that is the next important theory here. What do you understand by print? So it's a function which is used to read the message. And where is this message showcased? It is showcased on the output terminal of your IDE tool. So let's say if I'm using PyCharm or if I'm using MS Visual Studio, so I should expect it in my output terminal. This can be added with respective to any variables that you're using it. The purpose of this is always to read the message. In my example, if you see some time back, see, I added a print variable because I wanted to see what is the content of variable. Similar way, if I want to, let's say, change this to something else, let's say automation. See, it is reading me that value. Or you can also remove this print. You can also put the label directly to this. This is automation class. It is just going to read you that message, right? So print doesn't mean that you should have a variable to read it. You can also insert a message directly to this. Why you need a message to be printed? Let's say you wanted to notify the user that the output that you're fetching is output for show IP into brief, right? So you can take a print of that. Output captured is for show IP into brief. So what happens on the line number 1, this get executed, and in the next line, you will see that the actual output being getting captured. Say, for example, if I run here in this device, see, there is no print statement. But if I put a print statement, output captured for show IP into brief, okay, and then I execute this. So you will see what happens for line 23. It's going to print that message for you. Okay, 1 second. This is something which we were testing yesterday, so I just removed that line. See, now this is what happens. That single print statement will let the user know that this output is for this command. If you remove that, is it going to bring any operational change? It is not going to bring any operational or functional change. But it's just a cosmetic things that you are adding to make your output look much better. See, otherwise your output would have been like this. So if he's very beginner with networking, he may not be aware of what this output stands for. But if you just add one single print statement, you can make things look much better. See, single print statement, you can see that it will also read out what that output for was or what it is for. See, so you can see multiple times when you are kind of want people to be aware. See, I'll put one more cosmetic impact using print statement. I will say that print, what device is this? This is the device. I'll say that my job was done, so disconnecting from whatever that device is, disconnected or whatsoever. Otherwise, you see here the output was it ran over on the device 1, and then it moved to the device 2, right? It came to device 1 and then it went to device 2. We have no ways to see at what point it got disconnected or got reconnected with the next device, right? So the print statement as a read output message will bring that features to me. So if I just run over here, let me add that variable. So if you see now, see, disconnected, and then the new device connection will happen. See, right? So if you want to put the new connection message, then feel free to do that with the print statement. What you can do is you can just add a new device. You can say that connection established. Okay. So now you will have a clear readout message when the connection got established and when it got disconnected and what happened in between. See, connection established, it captured this, it got disconnected from this device, and then so on, it started with the second devices. So what is print? Print is not any giving you any functional or operational impact. It is just a cosmetic things to make your output look better. Okay, so in short, what is that print used for? So print is to read the message for you over on the output terminal of your ID. So it will be, make your output look much better. Okay, so we discussed variable, we discussed print. Now let's say, what do you understand by comment? What is a function comment in Python? Anyone aware of this? What do you mean by comment?
Yeah, it's like leaving a note behind on exactly what the code is doing. That way, if somebody comes behind you, or wants to look at the code, they can at least know what that code is doing.
Okay. Yes. So see, comment also has its own unique approach. Say, for example, I have a script with multiple lines. Now, how do I come to know my, let's say, what this line was? So I can put a comment there, okay, with the hash symbol. So this hash symbol can be used to put my labels or my message or my labels to say that next line is expecting this or next block of lines are written to handle this. So like, let's say if I or someone else from my team after 6 months go back to that script and wants to make some change, he is aware what that is for and he can easily make some changes. And the good thing is you can keep this in your script throughout multiple times and they always get skipped by your interpreter. So whatever you write behind this never get executed. Okay, you might can put anything over this, not in a proper format. Do not worry, your hash in the uh, front end will not let this line to get triggered. It is always skipped or ignored. You can, in a Python script, you can always write that hash and then put down the message. Or let's say you have a working line and then you keep this hash button. So always remember these are line significant in Python. Why I'm telling this is because if you know the color cascading sheet, style sheet, we also call it in the web development, they have certain ways to make multi-line and then close it. Even in Cisco, when you make those MOTD banners or those auxiliary banners, you always give a delimiter, you put down your multiple lines, and then you just disconnect by giving, let's say, the same command or something. So they are like 2, 3 different lines significant. But in Python, we don't have that way. You cannot start with something and considering that this would be the end, this would be the start, and whatever you put, they are gonna be commented or grayed out. So that is not how the Python works. In Python, they are always line significant. So whatever you write next to it, only that is getting uh, grayed out, and immediately the next line is actionable. So you want to put something in a grayed out, then you can add at the end. Let me show you here how do you put those. Let's say I wanted to put a comment here, like I have kept some rooms here. Let's say I want to define that this block is to handle only Cisco vendors, right? So this is a block for Cisco. Let's say I want to put a comment that the below block is for Palo Alto vendors. Or if you want to put a comment here, modify the CLI command as per your vendor, right? See, now only this is getting grayed out, not something which is over here. And at the same time, if you want that whole line to be grayed out, then you can just start it with this. So they don't get triggered. They don't get triggered, and you can just run your script as you were handling it. So you can see that those things will get totally ignored, and rest of the lines will be triggering up. So this is a way to just notify what happens in this particular block, what could be changed. See, if something that has to be changed from a change window to a change window, so you can put some note and he can get this done. So this is one benefit. The second benefit is, let's say when you start writing a lengthier script of 30, 40 lines, you might end up with certain block which is not working properly. Let's say that this is giving you a problem, but at the same time, you don't want to remove it. See, if I do this, I've lost those 4, 5 lines of command. At the same time, if I keep it, they are also giving me a problem. So I want to fix it, but I will fix it at the end when I've sorted out the other blocks. So what I can do is I can, for a time being, I can all comment it. There's an option to comment all of them in single click. So when you click on code, click on comment with, all of these lines are commented. So you can finish up working with your first block. Once they are working condition, then might be you can just untick this. There is option to comment with line. So when you click that, they are all uncommented. And then you can start working on this, fix it, and then you have a block by block things coming up. Okay. So for whatsoever reason, comment is to gray out certain things which you do not want to be processed by the interpreter, Python interpreter. Okay, the reasons could be like I was telling, something for informational message, something for letting other know what this was for or to modify, or might be you're working on a lengthier script, you want to gray out few things and then work on something, come back and then handle that. All right, so these were three things we discussed: variable, print, comment, and now we have something for input. So do you know what is input function in Python? What does input does? Anyone heard about input function? No one heard about input function so far?
Yeah, input functions is just you take a variable and you can use it as a function, I guess, as a x plus 2 or something like that. And then whatever x is, you input that. You can input data into that.
Okay. So input is a prompt actually that lets the user type his required data. And that data we can store in some variable. And then this variable, we can call it in a different operations or something like that. So what do you mean by prompt? Let's say if I make use of input function, I'll say that enter the user name. So this is a prompt that is being provoked by your script. See, enter the username. Now, what would the user who is executing will do? He will type his real data to it. Now, that data should store somewhere, right? So that we can assign a variable to that. So what happens is whatever prompt is being prompted, when I assign a data, I would store it in that variable. And how do I make sure that I'm storing it or not storing it? I can take a simple print in that case. So if I run the script now and add admin and run this, you can see that print has been executed. If you want to put certain message to this is the stored value inside variable, and then run. See, now if I input some data, see, so you can see that data is called over here. Let's say if you say see, so you can keep input wherever you want user answer or user inputs. Say for example, in this working script, if I would have not kept the credentials hard coded in the script, I could have also kept the input method. I could have said input, enter the username, and over here I can just say input, enter the password. And then if I run this, see, this is how it will ask me. If I say it's once, let me run this. So we'll see when it reaches line 19 and 20, what happens. See, now it is asking me for the username. I'll say admin. When it is asking me for the password, I'll say the password. And then only the operation starts. Then only the script will get that integrity access to access the device and fetch whatever we need it. So it's a way for the script to prompt in a real time, and the users can type whatever inputs they need. If I do a mistake, let's say if I did a mistake with the credential input, so you will instantly get the error like the authentication is failing and you're not properly see, let's say this is an wrong credential, and now you see what error would we receive. See, so we get an error that there is an authentication failed issue, right? So things happens in real time. So when you were trying to hit on this block of this device, right? So you were prompted to enter username and password. If that's good, you get into it. If you input a wrong credential, then you basically get an authentication failed issue and your script will terminate. So what does input do? It is giving you a prompt to enter your required data. Now, where do you keep this? Like if you are expecting a user to type at the time of script execution, then you can go ahead. You don't want user to type during a scenario where he has to type multiple CLI command or multiple device IP. For that, you can automate it. You can read it from an notepad, or you can read it from an Excel file, right? So input is something which is manually fed. So definitely we will not be going, and we won't add 10 device names or 10 device IPs to it, right? It should be something which is reasonable that we can type in 10-20 seconds or something like that. So don't keep input for each and everything. You have a different ways to handle them. See, if you keep input over here and you expect that you give the IPs each and every time, that would be very tedious job for your script. If you have hundreds of device, do you expect every time you would be prompted, you enter device one IP, then things? It's a very tedious job, right? So it's not called automation also. Automation means to cut down a lot of time and you save time from your change window. So for that, we have a different approach. If in case you have a huge list of data, which could have been read during the real time, at the same time, might be you don't want to keep it here, or you don't want to store it somewhere in the script, but you want to read it somewhere from the backend. Let's say you have a device list here. See. Instead of this, which is kept here, might be something if you can maintain an inventory file like this. So you have all 100 of devices stored in a notepad, and you are reading it in a real time, and at the time of username password it is prompting you for input, and you kind of give the value and the script is executed. So how do we do that? That is, yeah, go ahead.
So would a more efficient way be for the script or to program it to run CDP neighbor or LLDP, and then some kind of way take all the IPs out of that and then run whatever, continue with your script once you get the output from the discovery?
It depends on the requirement. Okay. Not every time CDP or LLDP is the requirement. Might be the IPs are spread across from different data center also. So it's all requirement based. You get some 100 devices IP, but they are not neighbor at all. But you still have to execute and fetch a backup for each one of it, right? So that's all requirement on the inventory management. But for whatsoever it is, the open function is something which we would be using it to read it from a notepad. Okay, let's say read it from a notepad. You can use a open to read it from an Excel file, but it needs a integration with another Python library as well. It's not as simple as reading from a simple notepad. You need to have another library like XLWT, XLRD, Open XYL. So there are a lot of libraries which are specialized into reading and writing an Excel sheet, to Excel sheet or from Excel sheet. Okay, the read and write operation. But the basic thing to reference or to source that file, then we will be using open itself. So how open is written, I'll just give you the syntaxing. You will define the complete path. You'll put the complete path, and then you will define the operation involved with that. So let's say you have already a file and you wanted to read that. So what R does, R in the sense the file is already present and you're reading that file. If file is not found, then R will give you an error saying that file is not found. Might be you have to work on your path. Otherwise, sometimes the requirement is that you create the backup file as you run the script, and you want the backups to happen step by step. So in that case, you can go with appending. A stands for appending, or you can go with the W, which stands for once again, they are all eligible to create new file, and also will help you to write the data into that. Okay, so A and W. The difference between A and W is, in W, you will have, let's say you have something, and if you rerun the script, the previous things will be overwritten with the new data. You will run one more time, the new data overlaps the previous data. But in the case of A, you have something. When you run something for the second time, they will get appended to the bottom. You will run it one more time, it will go to the bottom. You will run it one more time, they are getting appended. That means they are getting copied to the bottom of an existing lines itself. But W in the other side, it will erase the previous content and overwrite with the fresher data. Okay, so how do we write it, or how do we see this? Let me show you here. Okay, so see, when I go with open method, I told you we are supposed to define the path. So let me get the paths to that. Let's say this is the path. Okay, and what is the file name? This is the file name. Let's say I will call the file name. Now this is already present, so I'm not expecting any W, A, or R, because by default R is present. But anyway, let me keep this, because later on there would be confusion. So I have this R, which is to justify that this file is already present. Now, if I read this, where do I see? Open is just to point it to this file. The read will happen in the next function. So I can go and call it as read. Now, where do you want to store this and then take a print of that to see what is being stored in that file? We have to see the content of it, right? So we can say that content of a file, and let's take a simple print of it like this. And when I run this, okay, so what I will do is I'll make use of read in the next line, where I say content of a file, read it, and might be I will say that store it in X or whatever, and then read X. Okay, so am I missing something? Let me see the path once again. This is device list. So let me keep it here. Okay, what I'll do is, let me add something called R. Yeah, so what happens is, R stands for raw, RAW. Now there is chances sometime this path might overlap with the Python functionality. Like in what case you think that will overlap? Let's say you had written it like this. Your path is something like this. Now, if you know, this in Python refers to go to new line. But at the same time, you were expecting this to be a system path and nothing else. You don't want that Python's functionality to, break down this system path. So what we did is we just added R. R stands for RAW, which means that whatever you are writing it, that should be treated as a system path only and nothing else. So the Python functionality should not overwrite or overlap the system path feature. So that's why we just added R in front of a system path. So this R is different when compared to this R. This R is when you don't want this to be leading to a problem, whereas this R to refer that this file is already present. If you wanted to create a file, then you can keep some file name and call it as A or W whatsoever, and then making use of write functionality, you can store some data, let's say storing data. Now what will happen at this particular location? This file will get generated and this data is getting written over onto it. See, this is what I changed. I have not changed this. This will remain same for all the different operation. You go with W, A, R, whatsoever. So this is where you are trying to keep the system path in a safer side so that they don't get overlapped with Python's functionality. Okay. So if I run this, see, when you run this, you can go to that system path. Do you see a file? See, the file is created and you have the data which has been written. So in a real time, what we expect is, let's say we are taking a backup. So when I'm taking a backup and when I run this, I'm expecting that goes and fit into it, right? So this is the method that we use to read from the file to store it in backup, where you might have heard that I would be taking up a backup of hundreds of devices, etc. So this is a small 2 to 3 lines that we use it. So let me show you. If I take this 2 to 3 line and go to this actual working script, and let me keep it somewhere, let's say over here, I'll put a comment that below code is to collect backup and put those 2 3 lines that you just took it from your another file. So let's say you want to store the backup with the help of device IP, right? So we can say backup of this device. Okay, let me take this variable backup of this device ending with the .txt extension. You can decide whether you want A or W. A stands for appending, that means creating of a file and store this data to it. Or you wanted to put a W, which is also to create a file, but it will overwrite the previous data. So I'll talk about when you need W1, when do you need A, once we start with writing. For now, just let me show you how does open fit in a script, okay, from a very high level. So now
And
if
R
I,
stands for,
yeah,
and R at the end stands for, it tells the system that the file already exists.
no, this is not that R. That
No,
R
the R at
was,
the end, where
yes,
you have the
R at
W
the,
at right now. Yeah, so that says that file already exists. You don't need to create a file.
yeah, yes, it's a read-only operation.
Okay.
Okay, so right now we are expecting the backups to be generated. So I'm creating a way to create a backup for these two devices. As they run, we expect that we will input the credentials, and we expect that show IP int brief gets triggered. And at the same time, we see that output being captured on the two respective different files as well. So let me run this. So you will see the prompt now. See, when you input admin and Cisco, see, it got connected, disconnected. Again, admin, and let's say you give the, say, job is completed. So where are the backup? Backup, definitely wherever you gave those path, right? So this was your path, and you will see the backups here. So one of them is here. Okay, one second. Oh, okay. You're not writing the output of it. So that's why it is giving you some junk value. So what I will do is I will mention what has to be copied. So what do we want to copy? We want to copy the output of this. That is this variable, and I keep it instead of a message to that. And it's a W. You will see that the previous data will be overwritten with the latest data. So let me run this. Admin Cisco. So I'm waiting for the second prompt, admin Cisco, and we should receive the output. See, now you will receive the output. So whatever you captured on your output terminal of your application, they are also at the same time captured on a respective notepad as well. And the previous data, what did happen with the previous data? They got overwritten. Why? Because you're making use of operation W. But say, for example, you wanted something else, okay, and you wanted to capture it in the same file, but also by keeping it the same, the previous output. Let's say this is one of its output, and you wanted the next output for, let's say, show ARP or something. Let's say show ARP, let's say show routing table, IP route, or let's say show logs, all in single, then A is not going to help you. Sorry, the W is not going to help you. It would be A that would append your data. So did you get some fair enough ideas on the topic we discussed today?
Yes.
Okay. So we discussed variable, we discussed print, we discussed comment, then we discussed input, and then now we discussed open. So good enough for today. Now next class we will continue with the rest of topics like data types and etc. And to practice, what you just need for now is only a PyCharm tool and Python programming language. So you can just download this from python.org website. It's a free to download. When you go to Python website, download, you will see the option here, download Python. Just follow the on-screen process. It's a exe file. It will get installed. And at the same time, you will have the PyCharm community version, which is again a free version. Don't have the professional, because they are first 15 days free and then a paid version. So don't go with the professional. Instead, there would be the community version if you scroll. So go with the community version. And once you have Python and PyCharm on your Windows operating machine, then all the basic thing that we discussed today, you can practice it in your laptop as well. Okay. And to have this kind of device, you should be little bit aware of how GNS work, how EVNG work. You must have the operating system images. You must have those iOS images. Then only you can bring this up. And that I would not cover in the open session. This I would cover up once we have the log section started up. I will show you that how this home lab setup was created, etc. But as I told you, we have a dedicated team which will deploy this on your laptop, okay, with all the complete image and all those URLs, etc.
When does the actual class start?
See, right now we finish with this sample classes and it is a continuation. So from tomorrow onwards, we are continuing with the class itself. Okay, so tomorrow is the class 3, then class 4, so on.
Okay.
Yeah. And you guys already, I think, are registered over on Zoom Meet, and I think you guys are receiving uh, the notification as well, right? About the classes. So you can contact to the same person about the enrollment to this batch, and my backend will help you to enroll. Or you can take the contact detail here and ping, and the information would be shared with you. All right. So, any other question before I wrap? As I told you, the sessions of during the weekdays are always 1 hour because there are people who would for whom this would be a working hours. So, just don't want to disturb their working routines. All right. So, if there is no question, we will meet up in the class of that's starting from tomorrow.
Savin?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, actually, yeah, I already enrolled for that course, but every time I need to register for joining this session. So
No, it will be not from the next class. Okay.
yeah, okay, yeah, thank you.
Okay, and I want to be clear, make sure I understand as well. This is initially starting from ground up for someone who does not have any programming or Python training, correct?
Yeah,
Or
that's
experience.
right. That's why if you see, I was starting from very basic and that level, and later we will be making use of the advanced script, etc. So the initial phase would be from a very beginner level.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. All right, guys. Have a nice day.
Hello, sir.
Yeah. Go ahead. Pawan.
Sir, are you going to cover Flask front-end development?
That Flask and
PyATS is the
yeah,
name.
the Flask. Yeah, I will be giving some pointers over on Flask, how you deploy the Flask and the rest of things. Because it will include other programming language like HTML, etc. And since we are into the network automation, so I'll give you pointers for Flask deployment and how do you create a Flask and Netmiko integration, and later you can develop yourself by adding the bootstrap or JavaScript or any other things to make that front end much better.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Have a nice day and see you in the next class. Take care.
Okay, thanks, Kadali. Bye.